Hi, in today's episode, we have Sonal Dave. Sonal is an award-winning luxury wedding Toastmaster, Ceremonies Celebrant, public speaking expert, and a published author. Ooh, that's a lot. So now, Sonal, you have to tell me a little bit about your journey from nursery rhymes to public speaking. I know that's going to be a long journey, but it'd be lovely to hear from you because I remember you having said some very interesting stuff about moving from different countries to be where you are today. And I would also like to know a little bit about, do you think that there's a prejudice against women's voices in the broadcast industry? So we should cover that all, Sonal. So let's start with the journey.
Thank you so much, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here today. So I was actually born in Uganda. Some people listening in the future may remember the days of Idi Amin. So I don't remember much of it because I was born there. And when I came to the UK, I was a babe in my mum's arms. But my mum did tell me stories of how they had a wonderful life in Uganda, and then suddenly Idi Amin decided that he didn't want Indians to be in the country anymore. So they had to pack up their bags, leave everything behind, businesses, houses, literally just whatever they could carry in their hands was what they were allowed to take on the planes. And I remember a story of my mum telling me about they had to hide their jewelry, hide anything precious so that at the airport, the officials and the military would not take that away from them, and literally having to smuggle the Mangalsutra and your rings and things to get on the plane to be able to come to what was for them at the time their safe haven, the UK. So I came to the UK as a child, yes. And unfortunately, as a young baby, I was diagnosed with congenital hip dysplasia of the left hip. So not only did my parents have to go through the trauma of Idi Amin and having to leave Uganda, they had to leave two sisters, or was it three? It was definitely two at the time, in India with my grandparents. And they came to the UK with me, as baby in arms, and immediately, taken to hospital for various treatments to look after me, which has absolutely helped me to be who I am today. So in terms of nursery, one of the things I remember my parents always telling me was that in nursery, I was always the one would go, look at me, dinner, I'm going to sing you a song, dinner. And so from a very young age, my parents knew that I was going to be an extrovert. So my roots are to Gujarat, yes, in Ahmedabad.
All right.
So my grandmother still lives there. My mum's brother is there. So most of my mum's family is still in Gujarat. Okay. We have a few family members in Mumbai. And then we have family members dotted around the globe. So there's USA, there's Canada, I think there's Europe as well, so Kenya, so in a few different places as well. So I like to think of us as a global roots family.
All right, okay. And did your sisters come in and join you later in UK?
So I was saying about my nursery, and so yeah, even though I was kind of born with this adversity, I didn't let it stop me being one of these people that wants to still go out there and do things. But I remember an occasion when I was slightly older and my friends were going ice skating, and my mom and dad would not let me go. And I couldn't understand, why are you not letting me go? Everyone's going ice skating. And my mom said to me in her own words, Sonal, we have to protect you. And I remember saying to my mom, protect me from what? What will be? Just because I have this disability, as they like to call it, it doesn't mean I can't do things. And I remember that conversation really well because two things. One, it makes me think of how that generation were brought up in terms of people with disabilities and what they could and couldn't do. But it also makes me think about my generation and how we have kind of almost grown through the struggles of our parents to be able to do what we want to today, regardless of disability or adversity. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense but in India, we're still we are quite far away from having public spaces that is very, very conducive, for, of course, there are ramps and there are stuff like this. So disability as a subject is a subject that India is a developing country and we're doing phenomenally well, as a country. But I would assume that when you have lived all your life, in UK, you are far more in an environment where disability probably is a lot more embraced than what it is in India. So for our listeners here in India, it would be wonderful to know, as to how you grew up knowing that, you're not different from the rest in spite of having, a disability, as you call it, from the time of birth. So did you go through, because you were among Indian parents and, you were with Indian relatives, I would assume, did you feel that anybody said anything to you ever?
So it's actually quite interesting because in the second collaboration book, It Starts With Me, I talk about, my whole chapter is about disability. And I remember growing up, and often extended family would be, don't tell anyone, just keep it quiet. And I would be asking my parents, why do they want me to keep it quiet? What's wrong? And, my mom would tell me that, for some people, even in the UK, having a disability and being in an Asian family is still a very taboo subject to talk about. Even in the UK, they would, get the aarti out and do the aarti and, do lots of prayers and tell you to fast for a few days and then your disability will disappear. And I'd be saying, Mum, what is wrong with these people? That's nonsense. If you're born with a disability, it doesn't mean, you do these things and it goes away. It is who I am now. It is part of who I am. It doesn't mean I can't become I can't achieve my ambitions, my wishes, my dreams. And I used to be quite open with my mom, and my mom was open with me. But even in the UK, yes, we have the ramps and we have the discrimination agenda and we have the disability agenda. There are still corners of the Asian community that still will try and keep it hush-hush. If your child has autism or your child has ADHD or your child has a physical disability, I suppose in a way, because I'd learned to live with my disability from a young age, what it meant was I had learned to hide it. So actually, a lot of people didn't even know I had a disability till much later in life when I started talking about it, because I saw the discrimination and because I felt quite strongly about the discrimination. Now, when we go to India, and before the pandemic, my husband and I used to come to India every single year. We would go to Gujarat, Ahmedabad, to see my family. We would go to Mumbai to catch up with our friends and our music associates, and then we would travel somewhere. And I always remember we used to talk about this. I don't understand why in India, such a huge country, such a rich country, rich in culture, rich in education, rich in money, just does not do enough for whether it's people with disability, whether it's people that live in rural areas, for education. I just don't understand. And, maybe I need to do some deep digging to find out why. But every child has a right to education. Every child has a right to health, good health, hygiene, food. And these are some real fundamental things in life. So sometimes when I'm so sorry.
But
I get
just
really
for India,
this
I know, and but just to not to defend India, because I feel very strongly about being an Indian. I think we are really in the throes of development also, and as a developing nation, there would be in every part of the world there would be a pocket that would not have education, sanitation, the healthcare, and I'm very, like I always say in all my podcasts, and I'm an eternal optimist, and I know that education is the answer, for any nation to progress. And yes, it is not there, but I do think that today's youth, there is a huge change and people are opting to do a lot of stuff, they're not pursuing these big litzy jobs in really big cities, and big city people are actually getting more conscious and doing professions that are different, going into villages and teaching people. So like any economy that's it's developing, I'm sure these are the things would be a part and parcel of any economy. And it's really sad, like you say, but I'm sure that over time, all these things would be bridged. But I'd just like to ask you a question, Sonal. So do you think because of this disability and, somewhere where your relatives were doing the aarti or telling you to do things, that your voice started getting sharper and that's when you really took up to public speaking? Was there any association between the two?
So my public speaking, I think, first of all, it started when I was probably my teenage years. I had an awesome music teacher who realized that I had a very good singing voice, and my spoken word as well came across very clean and clarity, and I was able to give the message that people wanted to hear. So I was selected to be part of the English National Opera, which in the UK is huge, and even the venue, the ENO, is absolutely massive. So from quite a young age, and I think probably even going back to childhood with being a bit of an extrovert, my voice was kind of my channel for messaging. And I think with the disability, you do find certain areas of your life that you want to focus on. And for me, very much the public speaking came from having the performance skills, understanding what body language meant, what voice control meant, how different it can be if you can use those abilities to actually get across a message. And not only get across the message, to make sure that people understand what it is that message is. Because sometimes in the confusion and lots of noise, the message can be misinterpreted, misheard, and not understood. So for me, the public speaking, I think, was kind of slowly emerging from me from when I was a teenager. And then when I became a Toastmaster, and I did my training as a Toastmaster. It's a funny story, actually. I was at a wedding, and I saw an English Toastmaster at a Hindu wedding saying in a very Western voice, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the Akanda Sopagavati. And I remember looking, thinking, he means Akanda Sopagavati, right? And we laughed a little, but then I thought, hold on, I can do this. So I went and got trained. I got my uniform made for me. And I was at a wedding, and a parent, lovely lady, came up to me and said, do you teach this? I said, no, I don't actually, but maybe I'll think about it. Give me your details. And it was that was like the trigger to make me think, if somebody has come to a wedding, wants me to teach her and her children these skills, then there must be more people out there as well. So when I started sending out the message that I was actually starting to teach these skills, loads of people, loads of people from, like 5 years upwards, children who were 5 years old up to, the full-grown adults, adults in the professional world, parents. It was quite interesting how the range of people who wanted to learn these skills, whether it was grandparents wanting to be able to tell their children, this is what I want to happen when I die. Conversations like that are not really spoken about in the families, or children being able to say to their parents, I know you want me to be a doctor, but actually I want to be a creative writer. So, it's quite exciting to be able to share these skills so that people can actually say what they want to say what they're hearing, say what they're feeling. And then a knock-on effect of this, which was so exciting, was that people were saying to me that by being able to say what I wanted to say and people understanding what I was saying to them, I feel so much better. So there was almost an impact on their mental health. So where they were sitting there going, oh my God, how am I going to tell them? Are they going to understand? Are they going to listen? This is really making me feel down. It was turning that kind of downward smile into an upward smile. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So I just want to know, did you ever consider counseling? Because when a person can speak, obviously he or she understands body language, and what is it? Did you ever consider getting into psychology as a subject and taking that up?
So if I'm going to be really honest, I did think about it. And then I recall saying to myself, Sonal, you're somebody that likes the practical side of life as opposed to the theoretical side. So I have some amazing people that I can refer my clients to if I feel that actually it's more than my knowledge is worth, then I will pass it on to one of my clients. So I'm an English and drama student. So that's where I think my command of English, my language, my narrative, and then the drama side is my performance, my confidence, I suppose, and having those what I call life skills. So I'm a big believer in that. And what I'm about to say sometimes gets me in trouble, but I will still say it. I'm a big believer in, yes, it's great to have qualifications and it's lovely to have, A stars and, be able to go out there and say, look, I've got a piece of paper and look what it says on this piece of paper. But if you have life skills, so communicating, confidence, time management, organizational skills, financial management, these kind of life skills that, help you through life, not just here and now, but through your whole life, that those are going to help you succeed in whatever you choose to do.
I completely agree with you on this, Sonal, because you know what? I think theater is one of the greatest things that, in schools they have as a subject. And I think every child should probably not should, but they must be encouraged to go and join that, because what it does to them is that, it makes you lose your fear of stage to be able to stand up between a crowd and talk. Of course, everybody's not inclined to do theater, but if that can become like a part of the formative years, it really helps in the long run. And I would actually also somewhere think that, my ability to be able to talk or be confident and, because I used to be in a marketing job and I was, doing presentations to bring in business. And I think my theater work, of what I did in school and college is what really stood its test of time over with me. And those things were the life hacks that kind of helped me. The spotlight is on you and you just got to win and come out of it. So I so agree with you when you say that life skills are extremely important. I mean, you can be really good with your grades, but if you do not know how to speak to be able to go out there and make a point and make an impact, you may sometimes lose out on an opportunity, But Sonal, just tell me, do you feel that as a woman, especially in the voice space, do you think there is a prejudice against women? Because sometimes people say that women and their voices, it needs oomph.
To be quite honest, right at the beginning, I never thought I could be a Toastmaster, because everywhere I looked, and I did a lot of research on becoming a Toastmaster, every picture was either a white English man, and I saw a few white English ladies. So I'd actually thought that it was not something that I, as an Asian woman, could do or would be allowed to do. I thought maybe there's something in their rule book and their handbook that doesn't allow me to. But being me, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to ring them up and see what they say. So I emailed out actually first to a few different organizations in the UK. And one of them came back to me and we had a chat, and they said, no, there's no reason why you can't be. It's just nobody has really applied before. So I was like, that's very interesting. So you have I don't know if it's the same in India, but in the UK, we have what we call two types of Toastmasters. So there's Toastmasters, the organization, where you learn public speaking and you learn about communication and confidence skills, and you prepare for the outside world. So whether that's managing teams, leading conferences, speaking events. And then there's Toastmasters as an organization where you actually go to events. So I will go to weddings, civic events where there's the chancellor has been in the background. I will go to charity events, auction events, I can be at actually any life event, as a way I describe it, is from birth to celebration of life. If you want an air of gravitas, if you want somebody to just make sure people are listening, looking after the crowd, looking after clients, couples, that's where a Toastmaster can be. So I predominantly do much more of that.
What are the qualities, Sonal, that a person would need to have if he or she wants to pursue a career in becoming a Toastmaster? That would be lovely for our listeners.
Oh, love it. Absolutely. So to become a Toastmaster, there must definitely be an air of confidence in you, because you are in front of people, you are talking to people, you are almost telling people what to do. So, for example, you might say, ladies and gentlemen, please could you switch off your phones for the duration of the wedding ceremony? I know that you'd love to take lots of pictures, but the couple would like you to watch the wedding through your own eyes, not the eyes of a lens. So when you're saying that to people who are used to having a mobile phone in their hand the whole time, it needs to be done in a kind of a rule book way, but in a diplomatic, nice way. So there's that air of confidence. The clarity of your communication needs to be clear as well. With the Toastmasters at events, you're in a uniform. So the uniform tends to give you an air of gravitas anyway. But if you can also do that through your body language, through your voice, and the language that you use as well, then you will find that it's a career that's for you. A lot of people do ask, so Sonal, is it something that you can make a career out of? And I always say to them, absolutely. In the UK currently, in terms of associations that do events, there are only 2 Asian females. So you can imagine there are only 2 Asian female Toastmasters and Celebrants in the UK at the moment. So both of us are busy.
Wow.
So
Kudos.
We've made a career out of it.
Wonderful. Because to me, this is the peg for my, the entire episode, because I have so many women all across who are listening. And, this is so amazing because they're just 2 women in UK, and one of them is Sonal Dave, who's in today's podcast with me. And I mean, this is such an honor, Sonal, to have you and to just hear about your journey, from having moved from countries, your mother is a little baby, and then to go through the disability in life, and then to go ahead and become the celebrity Toastmaster that you are, and also having written a book and published a book. I mean, that's a feat, Sonal. So, Sonal, thank you so very much. If people were to get in touch with you, how do they need to get in touch? But before I end, I would have to say that there's been lots of prejudice about women's voices. So, which is, Anne Karf is a sociologist and the author of The Human Voice, the story of a remarkable talent. So, according to her, in the world of broadcasting, for example, there have been a vast variety of reasons put forward over time to exclude women from the airwaves. These range from Daily Express saying in 1928 that listeners felt women's voices were monotonous, to the Sunday Dispatch that said in 1945 that women were too emotive in their delivery, from too little personality in their voices to not enough, women can't win. But Sonal, you prove us wrong with your immense, commitment to what you're doing, to just say that, no, I will win and I will make a career out of, becoming a Toastmaster. And so this is so inspirational. And thank you so much. You proved the critics wrong. And thanks on being on today's show. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if anyone wants to get in touch or just wants any advice at all, please do. You can find me at www.sonaldave.com. And across social media, if you look for Sonal Dave 68, you'll find me across all social media platforms.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sonal.
No, thank you. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And the woman's voice is very intriguing if people take the time to listen.
Thank you. To you, our dearest listeners, you can find us on your favorite streaming services. Find us on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcast, and of course, all other major streaming services. With loads of love, we are MoodyMo Awaaz Podcast, where Hatke is hot.